Alright, so today I want to take a quick look at Black Ops 7 and some of its lore. We want to talk a little bit about the Cradle 2.0. Now, it's very easy to refer to this as 2.0 because it's basically the same toxin, the same drug that we kind of got to know in Black Ops 6, so in the early 70s, 80s, and 90s. And basically, the Cradle 2.0 improved tremendously by the 2030s, and it was used maybe slightly in a different way. And so, obviously, one of the bigger questions coming out of Black Ops 7 was, how does the Cradle 2.0 work? How do they get their hands on it? How do they make it? How is it still alive? How is it still functioning? And how did it not affect or kill David Mason and his JSOC team? I think those were some of the bigger questions surrounding Black Ops 7 and some of the events that occurred. So we're going to start off with a very quick history of the Cradle that we originally knew in Black Ops 6. So around January of 1976, the Biodefense Research Division of Advanced Technologies and Applications, known as the USATA, requested a secure facility to research and develop a new pathogen. This would lead to the creation of the Biotechnological Department at the COSPER Solutions facility in eastern Kentucky. By March of 1976, the USATA scientists had developed a new strain or toxin called the Cradle. Now, some of the early testing would happen on smaller animals, rodents, and things of that nature, and they showed some promising results. And because of this, they decided to up these tests to experimenting on human subjects because that's always the best thing to do. And of course, they probably thought that it would help tremendously. Now, around the 1980s, William Cauldron would become the first volunteer test subject of the Cradle. Now, he would go into the program named Case 1, and for many weeks after that, he was exposed to this Cradle toxin, and scientists from different USATA departments would run many tests on him, and they would conclude that Case 1 became much stronger and faster since his inception of the Cradle. Now, a big problem would come because of his exposure to the Cradle. The more serious side effects or effects that they didn't know about yet would begin to appear. Some of these would include many behavioral changes. He would become increasingly angry. He would be more prone to violent outbursts. And eventually, Case 1 would have to be placed in a 24-hour hold because of the effects of the Cradle. 10 years later, in 1990, Matvey Gusev, a former member and scientist of the Soviet Union, was recruited to help turn the Cradle into a big biological weapon. Pantheon would also strike a deal with Saddam Hussein, and in this agreement, Pantheon would receive research facilities and protection to hide what they were doing, while Hussein would be given access to the Cradle. Now, if you were to dig a little bit deeper into this, the whole point was that Pantheon wanted to frame Daniel Livingston for this use of the Cradle, and they were going to blame it all on Saddam Hussein in like a false flag operation. That is completely different. That's not what we want to talk about today, but I wanted to kind of bring that up so you guys kind of had an idea of what that meant. So going back to Gusev, he continued his work on the Cradle, and he actually made the negative effects a little bit stronger, and he turned this toxin into a biological airborne weapon per the orders of the Pantheon. The people that became infected by the toxin, the Cradle, would turn violent even more quickly. They would be more uncontrollable. They would start spreading this infection to others and fighting amongst themselves and killing each other, and they would have like this crazy rage that they couldn't control. So eventually we know that the Cradle and Pantheon and everything was stopped by Troy Marshall, Russell Adler, and the rest of the Black Ops team. But many decades later, in the 2030s, the guild recovered the body of Case 1, also known as Case, also known as William Cauldron. And Emma Kagan, the CEO of the guild, would assign Dr. Gideon Faulkner to recreate the Cradle. Faulkner succeeded and developed a new version called Cradle Variant 454, or easily known as Cradle 2.0. Now, after testing it on many human subjects, the guild began producing this Cradle 2.0 in an underground secret facility known as Blackheart. The version of the Cradle 2.0 created by the guild made the negative effects much stronger than the original did. People who became infected would quickly turn violent and develop a strong urge to kill, and this would even lead to the own death of the host. So basically, if I got infected with the Cradle, I would get more batshit crazy and I would die a little bit later, like just probably a few hours later or something like that, because the Cradle just completely fucked me, right? So that's basically what the guild did. They turned this into a weapon of death. So basically, if you hit somebody with it, they're dead. Now, Emma Kagan exposed JSOC and David Mason and his team to this. Now, what she wanted was for the Cradle 2.0 to kill David Mason and get rid of them very quickly. The problem was that it had a different effect on David Mason and his JSOC team. Because they had these ceilings implanted in their heads, they were able to be strong enough together to resist the full effects of the Cradle 2.0. So they experienced these awful, big, powerful hallucinations based on past memories that they had, but they were more resistant to it. And because of the ceiling, they were able to avoid death, and they were able to actually face these hallucinations together and help each other through them. So why didn't the Cradle 2.0 killed David Mason and his JSOC team? It was because of the ceiling implanted in their brain. Now, what is the ceiling? The ceiling is a small chip that is implanted in the brain of the user. Once installed, it connects the user's nervous system to a secure military network, and this lets the soldiers interact with technology and their thoughts. It's basically like a computer inside your head that you can allow multiple, operators to be in and share information instantly. So because of this and because of the connection that they had mentally, they were strong enough to survive the Cradle 2.0 effects and continue fighting, and even strong enough to get out of it and resist it. And this is also why Alden Dorn wanted to capture David Mason later on, because he wanted to study the ceiling even more and find out what really made it click so he could fight against it.